ou moção?
Yes, Madam President. I would like to give notice that, on a matter of agency and of regional importance, supporting the candidature of Mr. Duterte Pacheco of Portugal for the position of President of the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, for the period 2020 to 22, be adopted by this 47th Plenary Assembly. I so move, Madam President.
Muito obrigada, Excelência. Convido agora, uma vez aceite a notificação, convido agora a Senhora Secretária-Geral para proceder à leitura do primeiro ponto da ordem do dia. Senhora Secretária, por favor.
President, notice of motion on a matter of urgency and regional importance, supporting the candidature of Mr. Duarte Pacheco of Portugal for the position of President of the Interparliamentary Union for the period 2020 to 2022.
Muito obrigada, Senhora Secretária-Geral. Para a notificação da moção sobre a questão de urgência e de importância regional relativo ao apoio à candidatura de Sua Excelência Duarte Pacheco de Portugal ao cargo de Presidente da União Interparlamentar para o período 2020 a 2022, convido Sua Excelência Advogado Jacob Francis Mudenda, Presidente da Assembleia Nacional do Zimbábue. Excelência, tenha bondade.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the motion as follows. Recording Rule 26, Subsection 4 of the Rules of Procedure regarding the tabling of motions on matters of agency and regional importance, further recalling the decision of the Executive Committee of the IPU that in light of the constraints imposed by COVID-19 pandemic, a virtual session of the Governing Council will be convened from the 1st to the 4th November 2020 to discuss and take decisions on pressing issues relating to the functioning of the organization, including the adoption of the IPU budget and program of work for 2021 and the election of the IPU president, recognizing that all member parliaments of Sadc PF are also members of the Interparliamentary Union and therefore belong to the Sadc group, whose mandate includes consulting on agenda items under consideration on the IPU Assembly for purposes of ensuring regional consensus, cognizance of the urgent need for consensus by the Sadc group regarding the candidate of the IPU president for the period 2020 to 2022, noting the submission of candidatures for the IPU president by the following: Mr. M.S. Sanjirani of Pakistan, Asia Pacific Geopolitical Group; Mr. D. Pacheco, Portugal, 12 Plus Geopolitical Group; Mr. A. Saidov, Uzbekistan, Eurasia Geopolitical Group; and Ms. S. Atalajnan, Canada, 12 Plus Group. Further noting that the presidential candidates are notably from 3 geopolitical groups of the IPU, and that is the Asia Pacific Geopolitical Group, the 12 Plus Group, and the Eurasia Group, reiterating the need for the IPU membership to elect a president with extensive experience in the operations and functions of the IPU in order to steer the organization to greater heights in line with its vision, which states that, and I quote, "We want a world where every voice counts, where democracy and parliaments are at the service of the people for peace and development," unquote. Acknowledging that among the candidates, Mr. Duterte Pacheco of Portugal possesses the relevant experience, having held various positions within the IPU structure as follows: 1, head of the national delegation to the IPU since 2016; 2, chairperson of the 12 Plus Geopolitical Group since 2017; 3, member of the IPU Standing Committee on Peace and International Security as Vice President 2014 to 2016; 4, internal auditor for the IPU in 2007, 2011, 2013, and 2015; and 5, member of the Portuguese delegation to the IPU since April 2002. Now, therefore, 1, resolves to support the presidential candidature of Mr. Duterte Pacheco of Portugal. 2, calls upon the Sadc Group to support the presidential candidature of Mr. Duterte Pacheco of Portugal. 3, resolves that the decision be communicated to Mr. Abubakar Hassan Fulata, President of the Africa Geopolitical Group. I so move, Madam President.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Any seconder to this motion?
Yes, ma'am. South Africa. May I proceed, please?
Sim, muito obrigada. Obrigada.
Please, thank you.
Madam President, I take the floor as Thandimodise, Speaker of the National Assembly in South Africa. In this instance, representing the 2 houses of parliament who are both members of the IPU, to second this motion for the support for the candidature of Mr. Duterte Pacheco of Portugal. We second. Thank you, ma'am.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Thandi Modise. I call upon Honorable Speaker Jacob Francis Mudenda to present the motion. You have the floor, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Madam President. Having explained in detail the motion, I want to thank South Africa for supporting the motion, and I so move that the motion be tabled for discussion, if any. Thank you.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Mudenda. Honorable members, after the presentation and seconding of the motion respectively by the Honorable Speaker Mudenda and the Honorable Speaker Thandi Modise of South Africa, I would like to know whether there are any registration for debate. You have the floor, honorable speakers and honorable members. I recognize Professor Kashavivi, the honorable speaker of Namibia. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is not, my intervention is not actually to debate, but I speak on behalf of the Namibian Parliament, and I warmly welcome this motion, the mover and the supporter, and simply to underscore the Namibian Parliament's own support for this motion. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I now call upon the Honorable Carlos Moreyravash from the Parliament of Mozambique. You have the floor. Thank you, Honorable Chair and President of the Sadc Parliamentary Forum. With your indulgence, I will present the statement from Mozambique in support for the candidature to President of the IPU, which is as follows. The National Assembly of Mozambique wishes to state its support for Mr. Duarte Pacheco of Portugal to the position of President of the IPU for the period of 2020 to 2022, because it is a candidature which is aligned with the perspective of development of the region, of the SADC region, and of the African continent as a whole. In this regard, through the Sadc Parliamentary Forum, the National Assembly of Mozambique states would like to declare wholeheartedly support to the candidature of Mr. Duarte Pacheco from Portugal. Thank you very much. I have just presented the statement from Mozambique. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now call upon the Honorable Member from Zambia, who has raised a hand. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry that it's being said, so you may excuse me. From the movers of the motion, I did not hear their justification for the Sadc Parliamentary Forum to support this candidate. What is their strategic advantage for the Sadc Parliamentary Forum in supporting this candidate? If it was said, because sometimes I have a break in transmission, then I apologize. But if it was not said, then I would be interested to know the strategic advantage of Sadc PF in supporting this candidate. I thank you, Madam President.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Situmbeko Musukotoane. I don't see any other request to debate, so I call upon. Now I recognize, before I go over to the Honorable Speaker, now I recognize the Honorable Josefina from Angola to take the floor. Thank you very much, Honorable President of the Sadc Parliamentary Forum, honorable speakers, and dear colleagues. Angola, I have raised my hand to support, to also support the motion on the candidature of the Honorable Duarte Pacheco to the President of the IPU for the period of 2020-2022. We do this on the based on the elements that have been presented, and for the question that has been raised by the Honorable Situmbeko Musukotoane, it is that the curricula and his dedication and experience at the IPU and on the Angolan delegation, this is the person who has been at the IPU, has been trying to introduce the Portuguese language into the IPU. And so our expectation, we think that following his election, we think that he will go on to try to materialize this wish. And this is the person who has been trying to establish liaison adequately between the European Union and Africa, even at the level of the Portuguese-speaking countries organization. And so Angola would like to support this candidature. Thank you, Honorable President. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Now I call upon Honorable Busisiwe Dlamini from Eswatini. You have the floor, Honorable Member.
Sua Excelência, Senador Lamine de Eswatini, faça favor.
Your Excellency, the Honorable Member Dlamini from Eswatini, please, you have the floor.
Ngicela intervene. Usho ukuthi it was a mistake. Please say something.
Madam President, that was a mistake for raising the hand. We apologized.
Está certo, Excelência.
Okay. Now I call upon the Honorable Rovalina from Madagascar to take the floor. You have the floor, Honorable Member from Madagascar.
Thank you, Madam President, for allowing me the floor. Excellencies, honorables, MPs, chiefs of delegations, colleagues, in the name of Madagascar's National Assembly, we are supporting Mr. Pacheco Duarte to the position of President of UPI for the period 2020 to 2022. We need their contact so that we may communicate with them after their successful bid. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Rovarilina from Madagascar. I don't see any other request to debate the motion. Accordingly, I call upon the Honorable Advocate Francis Mudenda to react to the debate and clarify the issues that have been raised. You have the floor, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Madam President.
It looks as if the Senator Isaac Magagula from Eswatini would like to also take the floor. You have the floor, Honorable Vice President.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for recognizing me. I am wearing two jackets, as you know, from Eswatini National Parliament, as well as an official of the forum. I am not rising to say yes or no, but I'm rising to support the observation and comment by Zambia that when Honorable Mudenda sums up the debate, it should be articulated the strategic advantage that we as a forum, maybe as affiliates of the forum, stand to benefit. Otherwise, he's been very articulate in recommending the candidate, but it also slipped me. How do we stand to a benefit? We're in Africa, he's in Europe. If we can just clarify that one, basically in line with Zambia's sentiments. I thank you, Chairperson.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator Magagula. Now, yes, I don't see any other request to debate, so I'll call upon now the Honorable Francis Mudenda to react on the issues that have been raised. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I start by applauding South Africa for seconding the motion, and Namibia for supporting the motion as well wholeheartedly, and Mozambique for indicating the appropriateness of the candidature of Mr. Pacheco, as well as the sentiments expressed in support by Angola that Mr. Pacheco has a rich curriculum which should enable him to lead IPU to greater heights. And that we in Sadc PF stand to benefit from his leadership. On the issue raised by Zambia and Eswatini, when we accepted the outgoing president of the IPU, Gabrera, we did not look at what we would benefit at the Sadc PF, let alone when she addressed us in South Africa, when we met the speakers at PAP, we looked at the candidates and the potential. In this case, we felt that she was a young lady representing young parliamentarians, very passionate in terms of driving inclusivity in the affairs of PAP. And we supported her nomination, and she succeeded. What we look at is not what we should gain as Sadc grouping of parliaments, but because we are part and parcel of RPU, we should look at what the candidate brings in terms of the leadership of the IPU. For the benefit of Zambia, in my prayer, acknowledging the candidature of Dute Pacheco, I said he has worked in various positions within the IPU structure. For example, as head of the national delegation to the IPU since 2016. And two, as chairperson of the 12+ geopolitical group since 2017. And thirdly, as a member of IPU Standing Committee on Peace and International Security, as a vice president, 2014 to 2016. And perhaps more importantly, as an internal auditor for the IPU And the internal auditor of the IPU is selected by the governing council of the IPU, among many other people. And the fact that he was an internal auditor striving to improve the corporate governance of IPU, not only once, but in 2007. And later on in 2011, the governing council appointed him to be an internal auditor again in order to cement the strength of the corporate governance of the IPU. Further on, the governing council of the IPU in 2013 felt that we needed him to strengthen the administration of IPU, particularly in terms of the management of our financial resources, to which we contribute as Sadc PF, as individual members of the IPU. And not only that, 2 years down the line, the governing council had to appoint him again as an internal auditor to strengthen the prudential management of our resources within the IPU, including ensuring that the IPU was well funded. And not only that, the fifth thing that I mentioned was he has been a member of the Portuguese delegation to the IPU since April 2008. That is 18 years. All this exposure gives him credence compared to the other three candidates who do not measure in terms of the stature of the curriculum return. So when the IPU is a strong organization, Sadc PF shall benefit. When IPU has a visionary leader who understands the operation of IPU, the Sadc PF will benefit from the programs of the IPU. It is against that background that these credentials of Dr. Pacheco make him a leading candidate to be our next president, supported by Sadc PF. And other countries that have also indicated their support for him, basically in Latin America and in the Middle East. Thank you, Madam President. I so move, therefore, for the adoption of this motion.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Mudenda. After this clarification by the Honorable Speaker Mudenda, I would like to know whether the Honorable Dr. Sintumbeku Musokotwane and the Honorable Senator Isaac Magagula would like to make any comment. You have the floor. Oh.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I have no further comments and I have no objection to the proposal. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I would like to know whether the Honorable Senator has anything to say.
Thank you so much, Madam President, for yet another opportunity. I am satisfied with the response offered by Honorable Mutenda, the mover of the motion. He's articulated how we stand to benefit, because that is crucial. It will always remain so. If we stand to benefit like the way he has ably articulated, I accordingly associate myself with his candidature. Thank you.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator. After all these remarks, I put the question that the matter of urgency and regional importance related to supporting the candidature of Mr. Duarte Pacheco of Portugal to the position of President of the IPU for the period of 2020 to 2022 be adopted. Any objections?
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much.
Não havendo qualquer objeção, a moção
There being no objection, the motion is duly adopted.
obrigada.
Thank you very much.
Convido agora,
I now call upon the Secretary General to read out the second order of the day.
faça favor.
Madam Secretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable President. Address to the 47th Plenary Assembly by the World Health Organization Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, on the COVID-19 pandemic and what parliaments can do to ensure robust and coordinated national and regional responses, in accordance with Rule 44, Subsection 5 of the Rule of Procedure.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary General. Honorable members, in terms of Rule 44, Sub-Rule 5 of the Rules of Procedure, the President of the Sadc Parliamentary Forum may invite the observers to take the floor and to address the plenary assembly. We invited Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of WHO, to talk about the COVID pandemic and what parliaments can do to ensure robust and coordinated national and regional responses. Following this, the invitation that was addressed to him, he sent a pre-recorded address to be played to the plenary assembly, as he wouldn't be available because of other agenda related to the pandemic. Accordingly, I call upon the Secretariat to facilitate the playing of the address. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, esteemed parliamentarians, dear colleagues and friends, It's an honor to address you today. As you know, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were all deeply concerned about the potential impact of the virus on Africa. So far, 1.2 million cases of COVID-19 and more than 26,000 deaths have been reported to WHO from the African region. Most African countries have succeeded in preventing or containing widespread community transmission. But all countries must remain vigilant, and there can be no place for complacency. The virus is still circulating and most people remain susceptible. It's critical to respond to the worrisome increase in cases in several countries to prevent or mitigate a wide resurgence. Beyond the virus itself, the pandemic has upended our health and economic and social systems. Access to essential healthcare services have been disrupted. Hunger is on the rise, and many services to prevent and treat communicable diseases have been interrupted, including immunization. Many countries in Africa can take pride in the fact that they have improved their capacity to prevent, detect, and respond to emerging diseases and public health emergencies. However, considerable gaps remain. Racial and social inequalities, weak governance, and the politicization of public health, all of this put people at risk. The health crisis is a profound test of the bounds of trust between communities and their leaders. National unity and international solidarity are more important than ever. The gaps in our health and social protection systems are where the pandemic thrives. WHO is working hard to help countries across Africa to improve their preparedness and response capacity. At the start of the pandemic, just 2 African countries had lab testing capacity for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. By the end of February, 32 countries had testing capacity, and now all countries in the Africa region are covered. WHO has also worked with countries across Africa to support the establishment of public health emergency operations centers that enable multi-sectoral, multi-partner coordination. Our EOC network has run global simulation exercises and shared best practices to help countries get ready for public health emergencies like the one we're experiencing today. In all this, we have worked very closely with Africa CDC. Through the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator, we're working with partners around the globe to provide equitable access to the COVID-19 medicines and vaccines as they are developed. So far, the ACT Accelerator has secured 120 million rapid diagnostic tests for lower income countries and supplies of dexamethasone for up to 4.5 million patients. WHO commends the Sadc platform for its leadership on health and for the COVID-19 response in particular. We strongly believe in the importance of working with parliaments. WHO is committed to strengthening our collaboration with other critical partners in the region, such as African Union, the Africa CDC, and the Pan-African Parliament. In 2019, the Interparliamentary Union adopted a global resolution on universal health coverage, and we call on all parliaments to take action to make it a reality in your own countries. Strong health systems are the best defense against every health emergency. I will leave you with 3 requests. First, political leadership must be united across partisan lines and between countries. We're all in this together. As parliamentarians, you have a critical role to play in demonstrating the solidarity that's needed so badly to defeat this virus. Second, equity must be our guiding principle. Treatments and vaccines must be distributed equitably and go to the populations that need them the most. And we need you as parliamentarians to advocate for this. Third, We have to rebuild trust and communication with and within our public institutions. If we're to control this virus, it's critical that countries share up-to-date information. My brothers and sisters, the COVID-19 has demonstrated that health is not just an outcome of development, it is a prerequisite. When we promote and protect health, we promote and protect jobs, businesses, economies, education, gender equality, peace, sustainability, and more. By working together in solidarity, we can not only end the pandemic, but build the healthier, safer, fairer Africa we all want. I thank you.
Agradecemos ao Dr.
We appreciate the address by Dr. Tedros Adhanom for his very clear presentation. On behalf of the Sadc Parliamentary Forum, I would like to commend the WHO for the work they have been carrying out against the pandemic and the efforts to find a vaccine. The Sadc Parliamentary Forum is ready to collaborate with the WHO and other stakeholders to guarantee that there is a durable solution. Now I call upon Madam Secretary General to read out the third order of the day. Madam Secretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable President. Statements by heads of delegation on experiences and lessons from national parliaments on strengthening accountability during a pandemic. The case of COVID-19 in accordance with Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure.
Muito obrigada, senhora.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary General. In terms of Rules 45, which I'm going to as follow, the President may allow one or two speakers or one or more leaders of delegations who would like to make a statement on important issues for the forum. Honorable members, the extraordinary circumstances of the COVID pandemic resulted in very new situation, and it is extraordinary challenges to face our parliaments. The closing of borders, the confinements, and the closing of mines, restrictions of circulations, the cross-border while necessary for public health and security, they disturbed economies and resulted in mass work loss and turned more vulnerable and depending on social support, and also violations of human rights. Many of our parliaments had to resort to try to find how to go for production legislation, and the crisis, the pandemic crisis, also disturbed the chain of distribution of food, and this is also an aggravating circumstances, including security and distribution of food, which affected drastically the security situation for food security in the SADC region.
Estima-se que a Covid-19
It is estimated that COVID-19 has left 40 million in the SADC region
situação de grave insegurança alimentar.
with a lot of food insecurity.
Mais uma vez,
And once more,
para os encontrar soluções para
to find solutions for food
este contexto,
security.
irei convidar aos
I will now call upon the speakers and leaders delegations of our parliaments
intervenções
to make
nesta
statements
Assembleia
in
no
this
âmbito do artigo
assembly
40
in terms of
partilhando as suas experiências
Rule
de
45 of the Rules of Procedure in
em
order to share the experiences, especially on how to strengthen accountability during a pandemic. Each speaker or head of delegation will have 10 minutes to share their experiences and the lessons learned from their parliaments and to share it for the benefit of all our parliaments. We are going to follow this alphabetic order. And so to make the statement, I call upon the Angolan delegation to make their statement. Honorable member, you have the floor.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much. Honorable President of the Sadc Parliamentary Forum, my name is Josefina Pitra Diakite. I am a Member of Parliament of Angola. Honorable speakers, honorable senators and MPs, Madam Secretary General of the SADC, I would like, first of all, to greet the Sadc Parliamentary for having interpreted correctly the signs of the time and having adopted as a theme for this 47th Plenary Assembly the accountability of parliaments in times of COVID. This pandemic is, in the words of Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, this is the greatest challenge after the Second World War. In less than a year, it transformed into a real threat to peace and international security. Today, it is no longer where it came from. What is important is that we must have unity of purpose and action to combat this enemy, this invisible enemy that has already affected more than 1 million people in the world. The COVID-19 has shown the greater liaison of all countries, regardless of their differences, geographic and economic. It is proven that humanity has challenges that go beyond the borders, and this is why multilateralism is the more durable strategy. The COVID-19 pandemic doesn't discriminate between the first and the third world. It reminds us our philosophy of African Ubuntu philosophy. We are one man, humankind, and we have to try to combat all those problems, global warming, terrorism, and also poverty that affects our countries. Honorable members, Angola has 21 deaths from the pandemic, and in March, the first cases of this pandemic. Following this, on the 22nd of March, the President of the Republic, consulting the National Assembly, declared the emergency, the state of emergency. And we would like to underline that even during the war that was, the executive had never had come to the position, this extreme measure. In this regard, I would like to see the action of the executive for the emergency that contributed to reduce the spread of the pandemic initially all over the country. And the whole country is united with the National Assembly in the face of the pandemic and the public health problems. And we consented from this tribune, and also that in difficult times, we knew how to interpret that human life is more important than any political consideration. COVID-19 is a burden for economies of our countries, and Angola is no exception. Angola economy, which was already feeling the pinch because of the drop of the prices of oil, it had to put a lot of its resources to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. And we didn't, and then we legislated and do the oversight of the executive action. And so these measures approved all the budget, and then exempt the VAT and all the and also attenuation measures caused by COVID-19. Honorable members, to continue, I cannot conclude without looking at the internal measures that were adopted by the National Assembly for this pandemic. On the 16th of March, the Speaker of the National Assembly created the committees for the combat to the pandemic during the state of calamity and emergency. This committee, which is multi-party membership, it approved a contingency plan for the approval and management of measures. This plan is three-pronged: parliamentary administration, legislative activity, and international activity. In administrative, we tried to see a lot of biosecurity measures and of all the parliamentary community, and we established a security at the entrance of the National Assembly to sanitize people and cars. And also we defined the sanitizing the National Assembly installations, facilities. All the members of the community, we tried to go for tests for all of them before we tried to go back to the parliamentary year. To see social distancing, we adopted 50% of the people at the National Assembly. And to change the mentality, we tried to see another labor culture. This is a challenge that we are facing with the use of the ICTs. And in the legislative activities, I would underline the fact that the National Assembly was one of the parliaments that adopted through video conferencing on the 9th of April 2020. This exercise was facilitated by the fact that before the pandemic, we had already and an ICT plan for trying to see some processes with the use of ICT. And so it was a little more difficult, a little easier to incorporate the video conferencing that we tried to realize via the Zoom platform for the plenary and the committees. These have in a hybrid regime, some of them in the parliament and others which in the constituencies and others from their homes. In this regard, in times of COVID, we could try to more than 200 meetings in all the activity areas, which are 11 heads of committees of the table and the conference of the heads of parliamentary groups and 78 ordinary committees, committee meetings, and among others, and 10 of the NWPC. With regard to international measures, our National Assembly could participate through video conferencing in international meetings, of which the Sadc Parliamentary Forum is part, and we had to all adapt to the new normal in parliamentary activities. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, we have been saying that we live in a global village, and if anybody was still doubting, yes, please, could you finalize? The pandemic 19 has totally put things clear, and everything is clear, and this crisis has shown that we have to intervene more in public health. We have to see in our budgets enough resources so that we can see what can be done for the interest of the people we represent. We MPs and parliamentarians, we must do everything so that this wish can be reached. Thank you very much, Honorable President and dear colleagues. Thank you very much, your honorable member. I now call upon Botswana to make their statement.
Good morning, honorable colleagues. I am Madam President of Sadc PF, MPs, Senators, Secretary General. My name is Sadc, Member of Parliament in Botswana and leader of the opposition. I'll just give a very brief background and then talk to the realities faced by the Botswana Parliament. Botswana has been affected like all other countries in the region. We have been fortunate to have curtailed widespread community transmission of the virus. At the moment, the death toll from COVID-19 stands at 18. I think it was critical for Botswana to go the extra mile in trying to avert widespread transmission, because we are talking of a small population of just over 2 million people, smaller than the size of some of the cities in the Sadc region. We also have a fragile healthcare system that is not best suited to deal with high numbers of medical admissions to the facilities. So what we resorted to was the imposition of a state of public emergency. There are 3 measures. It allowed for formulation of emergency laws, even though it held some of the basic freedoms and rights. It allowed for lockdowns, national lockdown initially, and we also had regional lockdowns. We are able to impose compulsory wearing of masks, put in place mechanisms to facilitate contact tracing, to make sure that those who have been exposed can be quickly identified and isolated from the rest of society. It allowed for a rapid acquisition of much needed medical supplies. That is the general background of the situation in Botswana. When it comes to the National Assembly, I think, which is where the main interest is, we obviously are faced with the challenge of ensuring that the National Assembly remains able to deliver its mandate. The most critical, of course, being representation. With limited movement, with restrictions on the number of people that can congregate at any point in time, it's obviously very difficult for members of parliament to be able to interact with their constituents. And we have seen members becoming much, much more active in the use of technology, in the use of social media, to reach out to their constituents and make sure that they are able to continue representing their interests in the National Assembly. The other critical thing for Botswana and no doubt other countries is the oversight function of Parliament. Like I said, we're under a state of public emergency. This gives the executive greater powers. It gives the executive an opportunity to operate with less accountability. It allows for a departure from established practices that are geared at ensuring that we are not victims of corrupt activities. Fortunately, the parliamentary committees have been able to continue business as usual. And this is very, very critical because we need to refine more the effectiveness of the committees as a body that provides oversight over the executive. MPs have also been active in putting forward questions in Parliament, questions to the executive, to ministers, to the vice president on issues surrounding COVID-19 expenditures. We have also now had to impose, to disallow for members of the public to come and physically be present in the National Assembly to observe the proceedings in the House. However, this has come with what one could possibly term a COVID dividend, a positive outcome out of the calamity. Previously, Botswana Parliament was not broadcast live. It now is. It's live over the national television. It's live on the national radio station, even on social media. So the outreach now, some Botswana citizens out in diaspora, be it UK or the US, are able to now follow debates in the House and are able to assess the impactfulness of their members of Parliament. And finally, I just want to make the point that the strides that we have seemingly made in curtailing the widespread of the virus has had to come with a difficult decision of compromising on economic activity. Our borders have been closed for a period of about 6 months. This has killed the tourism sector. Botswana earns its revenue primarily from minerals and tourism. Those are the two biggest revenue earners. The sale of diamonds has been difficult, and tourism, like I say, is essentially on its knees. So somehow a decision needs, or a balance needs to be struck between protecting lives and protecting the economy. It's not a question of choosing one and avoiding the other. Basically, I think, yes, we are on a route of adjusting to the new normal. Thank you very much, honorable colleagues.
Muito obrigada, Excelência. Convido agora a República Democrática do Congo.
I now call upon the Democratic Republic of Congo statement.
Sim, mas pelo menos diz aqui. Sim, República Democrática do Congo.
Yes, Democratic Republic of Congo. And we will ask the presenters to speak a little more pausedly in order to allow for smoother interpretation.
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you all hear me?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Can you all
Oui,
hear
monsieur, oui.
the English channel? All right.
Oui, bonjour, Madame la Secrétaire Générale.
Hello,
En ce qui concerne,
Madam Secretary
I'll speak
General.
French, actually. Is that okay?
I will speak French, so it's okay, right?
En ce qui concerne
When it comes to DRC,
la République démocratique du Congo, comme beaucoup de pays,
DRC, like many countries here, when the pandemic started striking Europe,
le président
the president decided to close
les frontières avaient été
all
fermées.
borders. All borders were closed, and the government, through the health department, through the public health department, decided on
La distanciation sociale,
social distancing,
la capitale de
the
Kinshasa,
closing
de Gombe,
of
interdite au public pendant
Gombe, which is a greater area of Kinshasa's capital, that was closed for 2 months. The parliament was now the channel through which everything happened. This is why we were playing a crucial role. But during parliamentary session, we couldn't be more than 60 in the room. So that was one obstacle. Second, we had a systematic testing or voluntary testing for COVID-19. Everyone who was COVID-19 positive or was suspecting that they were COVID-19 positive were being tested. We prohibited every flight, maybe local or international, as I mentioned, social distancing, and the mandatory wearing of masks. Even when ministries, the Council of Ministers happened, we had a Council of Ministers through Zoom, as we are doing it now. We wouldn't meet in a room. And there are many researchers. There is research that is conducted, and we have a lot less death and a lot of people that are healing or recovering. Borders have reopened on the 15th of August, if I'm not mistaken. But before traveling, we have to make sure that the one who's leaving Kinshasa has tested for COVID-19. If the test is positive, we cannot travel. So I would say that the situation, the pandemic, is controlled, contained in DRC. The president is evaluating and understands the dangers related to COVID-19. Same with the government, same with the parliament. And this is what is happening right now in DRC. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you, honorable member. I now call upon Eswatini. Please take the floor.
Madam President, honorable speakers, heads of delegation and MPs, and all protocols observed, a very good morning. My name is Honorable Petros Mavimbela, the Speaker of the Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini. The role of parliaments in strengthening accountability during the pandemic, the case of COVID-19. Background information on the Eswatini parliaments. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in unprecedented disruption in all phases of life across sectors in the world, with countries battling to put in place measures to ensure public health and safety and minimize the impact on the economy. Lockdowns, curfews, movements, restriction measures, restriction on cross-border movements, and closure of markets and mines became the order of the day across the globe. Parliaments, including the Parliament of Eswatini, have not been spared either as they are too had to deal with numerous social, economic, mental, political, budgetary challenges in relation to the execution of their mandate. The impact of COVID-19 has also led to further reflections on the existence of our institution and compelled the Eswatini to re-engineer its thinking around innovative work processes, revamped priorities, and a modeled national economy. Parliament of Eswatini has been expected to grow and evolve by developing adaptive solutions to safeguard operations and at the same time provide the citizenry with the additional support that is necessary to counteract COVID-19 related impact. Let us look at the country-specific statistics. Eswatini has confirmed 5,660 cases of COVID-19. We have 113 deaths and 5,282 recovered cases. Such statistics reflect such robust parliamentary intervention and accountability during this COVID-19 pandemic. New cases as of today, we have only 16, and that shows that we are improving. Challenges faced by the Parliament of Eswatini. In ensuring coordinated national COVID-19 response, the pandemic has taken a devastating toll on lives and livelihoods as it has precipitated the implementation of various forms of lockdowns, including state of emergency by our government across the country. Some areas were identified as hotspots, areas where most densely populated regions such as Manzini was regarded as an epicenter due to high infection rates and more deaths. These responsive measures have been deemed necessary to contain the spread of COVID-19 and ensure that there is minimum contamination chain. As Parliament, we had some parliamentarians contaminated, and we have even lost a member. May he so rest in peace. Parliament has suddenly been faced with multiple challenges, including the need to pursue meetings under the certain sitting arrangement that is in the House of Assembly, where I belong. Some members were using the public gallery, taking into consideration social distancing and the need to mitigate the contamination chain. Also, sessional and portfolio committees chairpersons were invited to attend to urgent parliamentary business when need be. Beyond the barriers which posed themselves to physically parliamentary meetings, there were raised expectations for government action to support the economy, prevent joblessness, and procure the essential goods and services needed to fight against the pandemic. Parliament of Eswatini as an institution did not only have to meet for ordinary house business, but had to enact new and innovative policy and legal frameworks which made living possible despite COVID-19 for the populace. Parliament of Eswatini has also been accountable in the following ways. Legislation with respect to the Constitution of Eswatini, Parliament has ensured effective legislation oversight on the implementation of emergency regulations, the coronavirus COVID-19 regulations of 2020 enacted according to Section 43 of the National Disaster Management Act of 2006. The Ministry of Home Affairs hereby sets the following guidelines in terms of Section 32, subsection 10C of the COVID-19 regulations. Parliament of Eswatini has COVID-19 committee in place, working hand in hand with the Ministry of Health, and worth noting is that COVID-19 has been streamlined in all portfolio committees as its impact transverse across the youth, economy, employment, education, and more. COVID-19 committee conducts inspection in all referral hospitals and centers to ensure accessibility and availability of PPEs, food, health and hygiene, and more. Budgetary role. There is enhanced and strengthened health financing for COVID-19 has been in prime subject of parliamentary debates. Parliament ensures effective and coordinated response to COVID-19 by government ministries and National Disaster Management Agency in a transparent and accountable manner for sustained universal health coverage and fulfill sustainable development goals number 3, relating to health and well-being for all. Constitutional mandate of health for all in the Eswatini Kingdom. Eswatini has committed 420 million rand on COVID-19 response. More than 75,000 households have received food parcels to date. Oversight and representative provision of the following in constituency level: food parcels, nominal allowance, blankets, masks, capacity development initiatives through radio and television programs, school-going kids, online learning, radio and TV lessons, print media lessons provision has been done. The Women Parliamentary Caucus is engaged in SRHR provision exercise in the various textile industries where mobile facilities have now been embedded by the Family Life Association of the Kingdom of Eswatini to offer the following services such as essential surgical interventions, treatments for chronic illnesses, screening for cervical cancer, provision of ARVs for treatment of HIV and AIDS, psychosocial support system, mental health awareness programs, etc. There is also deployment, recruiting and recalling of medical staff to fight the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that there are no lapses in delivery of essential health services care in the country. Parliament has ensured that there is a robust and coordinated response to COVID-19 by all the stakeholders, including between and among the arms of the state. There are roadblocks between cities where temperatures and screening are conducted. If a vehicle is carrying more than 50% of its allowed capacity, passengers may be asked to disembark. Transportation options, public transportation is operating and is highly regulated. Passengers are required to wear masks and use hand sanitizers upon entry into the vehicles. Vehicles cannot exceed 50% of its capacity. Commercial flights are not operating to date. COVID-19 testing to all citizens can be received in any clinics and hospitals within the country. The Ministry of Health and the National Disaster Management Agency has established a toll-free hotlines to answer COVID-19 questions and receive reports of suspected air cases, particularly from those who have traveled abroad and more. Government, through Parliament intervention, has designated focal points for Eswatini COVID-19 response. It has also designated isolation wards.
Excelência, tem mais 30 segundos para terminar a sua intervenção. Faça favor.
Madam President, let me finish. Just give me 1 minute just to finish. Let us look at the recommendation that we have done as a country. Fostering and coordinated regional response by parliaments in whatever scourge of pandemic is the way to go. As a country, we pray for an expedite effort in seeing through our regional Sadc Parliament. Parliament of Eswatini is ensuring that there is no collapse of the public health system in the treatment of other illnesses due to the consequences of COVID-19 pandemic. Madam President, I thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Excelência.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Now we will go for a half an hour break. We'll be back at exactly 11:30. Yes. Which is does
Male gemsbok horns are perfectly straight. Females have a slight rearward curve. At around 10 years of age, the male giraffe spots darken as he matures into a bull. Apart from acting as a camouflage, each color patch on a giraffe's skin acts as a thermal window to release body heat. Wildebeest live as a herd. They protect their young as a group and at night take turns to sleep. Warthogs take mud baths both to cool down and keep bugs off their skin. A zebra's stripes are as distinct